the little things that come along, but then again, we ought to expect that hug and that love and that pat on the back when we deserve it and all those things. Yes. I don't mean to preach, brother. Go ahead. But we ought to expect those things. So many people come into this walk of life, and they are surprised when God does something. They do get happy and they get excited because God did one little thing in their life. Because just one little thing swept by their way. But I look at the things every day. Something comes my way from my Heavenly Father. Things that I don't expect. I get the presents, I get the gifts, I get the pat on the back. A lot of times I get the pat on the backside. Because He's my Father. And it's natural. It's real. You know, we were talking this morning in Sunday school, you were telling us about the 4 stages. And there is the lost and dying and going to hell, but then you've got that carnal man. He's heard the name of God, he's heard the story of the cross, but it don't mean anything to him. That seed falls on that hard ground and the birds come by and just pick it up, but you know, it was there. But when it falls on good ground, when you really get it down in you, like I have, this past 3 years have been unbelievable in my life. That seed was planted, and I would never call it good ground. But that seed was planted. It was sown, and it was watered. And the sun came and shone on me, and I've grown. I've grown in the past 3 years more than I ever did in the first 50 of my life. Because I've come to realize that it's not just a God in midair that we talk to. It's not just a Jesus that died on the cross and it's a story in a book. Friends, it's not a story, it's in a canon. It really happened. Everything in that book really happened because He cares. Because if we were just drawn out of Him, He's going to draw out of us. And as we walk through this life, He's going to give us all of those things. The desires of our heart. But we always take that Psalms 37:4 out of context. It says He'll delight yourself. But what does verse 5 says? Commit thy way unto the Lord. And that's the part we forget. We forget to trust and commit. But one day we get to go to a place. And that's not just a story in a storybook either. So many people think, well, they've been looking for it for 2,000 years, and if it takes 2,000 more, I'm going to keep right on looking because I believe the book. But when we get there, you know, I die to my flesh every day because I know I'm wicked and I'm unrighteous, and I know that I'll go through the things that displease Him. One day, I won't have to worry about the flesh anymore. Hopefully everything I do will please Him when we get there. For the soul never dies. Where we won't have to worry about slipping and stumbling and falling and going through the heartaches of life and losing loved ones and people getting sick and having cancer and little babies being stillborn. We won't have to worry about those things anymore. Because we get to go to a place where the soul never dies. Page 199.
Let's do something different. Let's change it up here. The Lord might be moving in a different way. They practice a song. I want them to sing that. I mean, I want her to sing Thank You, Lord, first, because we're talking about how good God's been. And I want y'all was practicing a song earlier. I want y'all to sing that. We'll just take a break in this because when the Lord moves, sometimes I was thinking, you know, nothing wrong with the song. I love the song. It's called Out. But, you know, the Lord might want us just to take a little time to be thankful. I'm thankful for my son. I'm thankful for my son. I'm thankful for the church. Thankful for you. Thankful for God's blessings on my life. And this morning I'm preaching on Obed-Edom and the 90 days in the presence of God. But God just surprised him by how good He was to him. He didn't deserve it, didn't merit it. And you got the same story, and you're proud of your kids too. I understand that, and you're thankful for God's blessing. And we all have a story of how God's been so good to us and left us here. And God could have taken us at any point. You know, over the years of traveling, I can't tell you how many times that I've woke up and headed down a ditch, pulled her back on the road. You ever been there, done that? Well, I mean, I could have not woke up. I could have just headed on down there. And God could have took me out on that, but God spared my life. I can't tell you how many times I've not been what I ought to be, but He's been good to me in spite of who I've been. Now, you know, when we're praying, giving, and we're all just on cloud number 9, then when He does something, we kind of say, well, you know, I expect that. But I'm going to tell you something. He is good to us when most of the time we don't deserve Him to do anything for us. Have you ever seen Him answer a prayer and you didn't even have prayed that week?
Yep.
You ever seen Him meet a need when you had a bad spirit, a bad attitude? Many times He'll just overshadow that. He's a good God. She's going to sing thank you, Lord. We sing it a lot. But I just want to thank the Lord. Thank the Lord for His goodness. Thank Him for help. Thank Him for His blessings. And we could go around the room. I'm not going to do that, but just thank the Lord for how good He's been. So we just find the Lord this morning, whatever God wants is what I want.
As the world looks upon me, as I struggle alone, will they say that I have nothing? Oh, but they are so wrong. 'Cause in my heart I'm rejoicing, and now I wish they could see. Thank you, Lord, for all your blessings on me.
What's he going to be thankful for? He's going to be thankful that God didn't cast him away when he was at the house and let him come back to church when he called him to preach. She could be thankful that as a preacher's wife, God didn't let her go to hell, but she got born again. He can be thankful that God had taken you as a young man when most young people are out in the world. You can be thankful for the fact that you've got 2 girls that God's blessed you with, and God's given them great careers, and God's brought you across the world here. And the same thing here, the blessings of God. You can be thankful that you was raised in a home. And you don't know what my home was like. Your daddy didn't come home drunk, and you knew what it was what to expect at the house, and you had the love there. You're going to be grateful and thankful for that. We could go around the room and say what everybody's to be thankful for. You can be thankful to be raised in a home where your daddy taught you to work, and you knew what it was to work. You can be thankful that you was raised in a home like that. You can be thankful that God's good enough to bring you down to South Georgia out of the hills of Tennessee, and you're down here this morning. God can be thankful that God didn't take him home on several occasions when God could have taken him home. You can be thankful that God didn't let you die when you was in your 60s and you went to hell. You can be thankful for that little sweetheart back there. Be thankful. He didn't have to. He didn't owe you a thing. He didn't owe me a thing. Everything we got because of him.
Now I know I'm not wealthy, and these clothes, they're not new, and I don't have much money. Oh, but Lord, how have you? And to me, that's all that matters. How I wish they could see. Thank you, Lord, for all your blessings on me. 'Cause there's a roof up above me, and I've got a good place to sleep, and there's food on my table, and I've got shoes on my feet, and you gave me your love, Lord. It's such a fine family, so I thank you, Lord, for all your blessings on me.
Growing up in India, where there's so many religions and so many gods, out when the God's there. You could be worshiping a little preacher, a rat or something. They do that. But God lets you see the one true living God. God could have let me be just like everybody else in my dad's side of the family. God could have. I'm thankful this morning for the Lord. I'm thankful for a Bible. I'm thankful for a family. I'm thankful for friends. I'm thankful for church. I'm thankful for God's blessings. I'm thankful for God's goodness. I'm thankful that I'm not gasping for breath right now. I'm thankful I'm not doubled over, reaching out to my chest because I'm having a heart attack. I'm thankful God led me to the land of the living. Everything in life hasn't turned out like I wanted or wished. I know what it is to cry. I know what it is to be heartbroken. I know what it is to lose a child. You know what that is. I know the heartbreak. I know what it is to be stabbed in the back in ministry. I know what it is to help somebody and give them the check, then they turn around and walk out. I know what it's like. But I say you weigh all of that. What's that song, you can sing where somewhere it says it outweighs it all? That would be good. Sing a little bit of that. God certainly has been good, has he not? I know some of you wish your spouse was here. You wish you had him. You wish yours was here. I know some of you wish this or that. And I want to say, just think about how good God really has been to you. No, I haven't got everything I wish for and everything that I desired in life, but He's gave me everything I needed in life. And really isn't that something? I'm not against people that have gifts and making money. That's great when you can use it for the glory of God, and God gives some people that way. My dad was able to make money. My brother was able to make money. And I'll never have financially what a lot of them have. And, nothing wrong with that. I'm glad God blessed them that way. But I got to thinking one day, what if I did have everything financially I wanted, and I lost everything I had? Wouldn't be worth it. I'd rather have what I got. Not have much, but I'd rather have that. I'd rather have Jesus and silver and gold. I'd rather be His and have riches untold. Because God has been good. God's been good.
Lately I've been looking back along this mighty road to the old familiar markers of the mercies I have known. I know it may sound simple, but it's more than a cliche. 'Cause there's no better way to tell you than to say God's been good in my life. I've been blessed beyond my wildest dreams when I go to sleep each night. Though I've had my share of hard times, by my side He's always stood. 'Cause through it all, God's been good. Life goes on and I can see I've cried some bitter tears, but I felt His arms around me as I faced my greatest fears. You see, I've had more gains than losses, and I've known more joy than hurt as His grace rolls down upon me, so undeserved. But God's been good in my life, and I've been blessed beyond my wildest dreams when I go to God's been good. God's been good in my life. And I've been blessed beyond my wildest dreams when I go to sleep each night. And though I've had my share of hard times, by my side He's already stood. 'Cause through it all, God's been good.
This morning, my message is on Obed-Edom, 90 days in the presence of God. It's a unique story in 1 Chronicles 13, where God is allowing the ark of God, who's been taken by the Philistines, to be brought back up to Jerusalem. David's bringing it back up. They're so excited about bringing it back up, they forget how to bring it back up. Instead of doing it God's way, they tried their way. They put it on a new cart to bring it back up, and they're crossing a little brook there, a little stream, a little branch, and all of a sudden it's jostled some, and a guy named Uzzah reaches out to touch it and to help God out. They were supposed to put men on the ends and put that golden staff through it and take it that way, but they're doing it their own way. God immediately strikes him dead. David's overwhelmed by that. David doesn't know what to do. They're coming up on a house, and the guy who lives there is named Uzzah. David says to him, here's the ark. We're scared to death of it. The ark was typifying the presence of God in that day. That's where God met with his people. That's where God sat down on the mercy seat. It had the tablets, the word of God. It had the manna, the provisions of God. It had the rod that budded, signifying resurrection. It's God among them. And David said, we can't handle this. Do you want God for a while? And here is a guy who didn't expect it, who didn't deserve it. He's an average guy. There's nothing about him beforehand. There's just grace that's shown in his life. There's no reason for God to stop by Obed-Edom's house. There's no reason for God to meet with him. But for 3 months, 90 days, the ark of God rests in the house of Obed-Edom. And the Bible says in 1 Chronicles 13, verse 13 to 14, and God blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that he had, because he opened his heart to living with God, and he wanted to make room for God in his life. You know, there's a lot of churches today that are going through religious services and they've not made room for Jesus in that. Do you know there's a lot of homes and families that's living their life and doing the 9 to 5 and going through, the kids going to school, this, and they're not making room for God. But here's a guy in the Bible, and we'll see, and I'll preach this tonight, but we'll see what God does in his life. But God does it because he makes room for the presence and lives in the presence of God. And because of that 90 days in the presence of God, his life is changed. His family has changed. His friends are changed. His future is changed. And when that ark leaves, he follows it and goes wherever it goes, because he is ruined at this point. He has been around the touch of God. He's been around the glory of God. He's been in the presence of God. And he just won't settle for anything less than that. You know our problem? We settle. We settle for the normal. We settle for the ritual. We settle for the routine. But if you ever get alone with God, and God so overwhelms you with his goodness and his grace, and you realize you could be in hell today, your life can be messed up. We could be in the hospital. Our body can be in a funeral home today. We could be by the graveside burying a loved one today. But look where we are. We're in a heated building. We're in a cushioned pew. We got a King James Bible in our lap. Our heart is beating. We're breathing. God has been good. He has favored. He has blessed us. And because of that, you know what? There should be a heartfelt of gratitude, and we should get to the place we never get used to it. It never becomes a common thing, but we want God's presence every time we meet. We want to be in his presence every time we pray, every time we get in the Bible and study. We want to be around the Lord and sense him and feel him and understand that he is there. You will find that Obed-Edom's wife was affected. You'll find his boys were affected. His grandkids was affected. His great-grandkids was affected. Generations to come were affected. Why? Because he took time. Now, do you think it was an easy thing? Think about this. God blessed him in spite of some things. God blessed him in spite that he had just average advantages, average achievements. You don't read anything of Obed-Edom before we meet him. We don't read about him leading the people. You don't read about him being a great warrior. You don't read about him being mayor of the town. You don't read about him anywhere. There's nothing said about him. He is an average Joe. He's just the average Christian. He's just going through life. He's just minding his own business. Yes, he prays. Yes, he goes to the synagogue. Yes, he worships God. Yes, he sacrifices. Yes, he goes to the motion. But there's nothing special about him. But God said, I'll take time with anybody that'll take time with me. And he said, I'll open my home up. Now, that was an inconvenience. The ark of God that you couldn't touch, the ark of God that disrupted their family flow was there. But he said, I don't care what I have to do. I don't care what sacrifice I have to make. I don't care what I have to endure. I'll do it because I want the Lord. I want him in my family. I want, you know something, a lot of people want God to bless their kids and grandkids and bless everybody around them, but they don't want to live a life that God can bless them so God can bless your grandkids. If I want my boys to be blessed, if I want grandkids down the road to be blessed, I'm going to have to get where God can bless me. If God will bless me, then it'll rub off on them before this thing is over. You got the grandkids of Obed-Edom doing more than Obed-Edom ever did because Obed-Edom took time out to spend time with God, and that 90 days so changed and transformed and revolutionized his life that he never was again the same. In fact, he leaves home. He never goes back home. You find him following the ark, living with the ark, serving the ark, and continually there. He ends up being a doorkeeper. He ends up being a gatekeeper. He ends up saying, I don't want to go back to the old life. I don't want to go back to how it was and how it usual. He said, I got something that I can't get over. I got something that I want more of. I got something I want my family to have. I got something I want my friends to have. And so he went with the Lord and never looked back because he made room. But he was an average guy in his achievements. He's average in his address. Guess where he lives? He don't live in Jerusalem where they're sacrificing. He don't live in Bethlehem where King David came from and Jesus come from. He lives in Gath. You know where Gath was? Gath's on the other side of the river, the other side of the tracks. It's where their hero, you know who the hero of Gath was? A guy who's named Goliath. He lived in the Philistine territory when the people of God went to conquer the land in the book of Joshua. You remember those tribes that said, we'll go with you across the river, but after we defeat the enemy, we're coming back and living on this side. The tribe of Dan was there. God put them in that land, allotted them, and among them there was a Levitical city where the Levites lived, and that's where he grew up in. He grew up in a place where it was wicked and vile. There were false gods and false worship. There wasn't revival in every corner, a camp meeting in every corner. There wasn't a hollering preacher with a chick track. There wasn't none of that going on. But in spite of where he lived and what he had to put up with, he saw a move of God and revival. You and I can make every excuse in the world. I know we're living in the last days. I'm pre-trib. I'm pre-millennial. I believe all that. I understand it's going to get more wicked and more vile. But we use the excuse of how bad it is because that's why we can't have revival in the church. How bad it is, that's why we can't serve God. How bad it is, that's why we can't see people saved. But here's the guy, in spite of a lousy address, because he's living in the wrong place. He's not living where the church is full. He's not living where they're running the aisles. He's living in a place where the devil is in control, and God still shows up, and God still blesses him, and God still comes by his way. Then he had a lame ancestry. I guess they're going to take and do something with it, but the kids got me, Diane. The Ancestry.com. And I hadn't sent it off yet. I just procrastinated, I guess. Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared to show who I'm related to. I'm not related to some of y'all. I'm scared. And you may be cousins. You just got more color than I do. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, on one side of the family, we got Francis Scott Key, you know, Star Spangled Banner and all that. Other side of the tree, we got him swinging from a noose. So, but you know, when you get this guy's ancestry back, he wasn't a blue blood. You trace it back, he was a Korathite. You say, well, that don't mean much. He was a descendant of Korah. You remember who Korah was? He was one of those who come up and said, Moses, let me tell you something, big boy. You've been running the show. We don't like the way you do it. We don't like the way things are going around here. We're going to take over. Moses goes to God and says, we got this bunch. Lord, I didn't want them in the first place. You put me here. You told me to lead the people. I've been telling them what you told me, and here they're trying to kill me. And God said, well, just separate from them. I'm going to do something new. And to separate from them, God let the earth open up and swallow that bunch up. And so Obed-Edom couldn't say, my granddaddy, my great-granddaddy was a preacher, man. He could rear back, leather lung, and preach that. He couldn't say that. He couldn't say grandma was a prayer warrior. He couldn't say my cousin, I saw them shouting and walking the aisles in church. He had Korah, a rebel, who God opened the earth up and sent him to hell alive.
Yeah.
You talk about having a bad past, man, that's a bad past. You talk about, well, God, certainly you can't do nothing with me because of great-granddaddy and the way that outfit acted back yonder. God, you couldn't do a thing with me. But in spite of living in a bad place, in spite of being from the wrong crowd, in spite of not being anything other than average, God said, if you'll take time, if you'll open your life, if you'll open your home up, I'll tell you what I'll do, Obed-Edom. I'll come by and I'll spend 3 months, and those 3 months, somebody said, well, how long does it take God to do something? It may take me a while and you a while. Don't take God long. And I tell you what, long till that house was transformed, that house was never the same again.
Amen.
So if God could do that for a guy who had a lame ancestry and a lousy address and low achievements, couldn't God do that for me?
Amen.
Couldn't God do that for you if I'll just make room for him? We rush off to work in the morning sometime when we could have got up 15 minutes earlier, and we didn't make room for him to talk to him. And Miss Cheryl was talking about that one time. Making room for God. You say it's a sacrifice to make room for God. Yes, it is. I don't think it was easy at the house of Obed-Edom. Man, he's got a bunch of youngins running around. You got to keep, you know how it is if you tell a youngin not to touch something. You ever tell a youngin not to touch something, what are they going to do? They're going to touch it. Well, now you better not touch that ark over there. And I'm not just joking with you this time. It's not going to be me whooping you with a belt and mama getting the switch after you. God's going to be on your trail if you touch that thing. So you had to keep the kids away from that. You got neighbors, everybody coming around. Have you heard Obed-Edom's got the ark there? They want to come see that. I mean, it was people lining up outside. He could have charged to see people see the ark there. Man, it was inconvenient. It wasn't an easy thing to do. It's just, I don't know if he's a farmer. I don't know if he's got a business on the side. I don't know if he's working with somebody else. I don't know what kind of job he's got. But it interrupted their entire life because they made room and sacrificed to allow God's presence in the Ark of the Covenant to be in their home. But if we could scroll the heavens back and we could get on a supernatural school bus and go to the glory world and roll the window down and pass Obed-Edom and say, Obed, let me ask you something. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Was it worth it? He'd say, look over yonder. That's my kids over yonder. Look over yonder. That's my grandkids over yonder. Look over yonder. That's the great-great-grandkids. That, he said, yes, it was worth it. It's worth it to serve God. And I promise you, serving the Lord, you'll never regret a day of your life that you give to Jesus. Any sacrifice you make or anything you do, you'll never regret. And it changed the life. Grace that he never thought, he was undeserved, unmerited. There's no reason. And I don't know, it's not the only house there. I don't think it's the only house in 40 miles. You said, well, why did they go there? Why did David, after he got scared, after God struck Uzzah dead, why did God go there? I don't think it's the only house. I don't think it's the only alternative. I think somehow he had heard about Obed-Edom. No, now he wasn't a great man and he hadn't done great things, but David got to thinking, we got to put this ark somewhere. God's about to strike us all dead.
We're going to be 3 o'clock in the morning, graveyard dead here, and our carcasses strewn out here in the wilderness if we don't do something. Where in the world can we put this thing? And you got me thinking, there's Obed-Edom. He's always been open to God. He's always wanted the Lord's will for his life. He's always wanted God's best. We can go there, and he went there, and I don't think he had to twist the arm. I don't think he had to say, I'm King David, I can take your life, and your head can be severed from your body at my word. I think he said, Obed, Obed said, yes, sir, my house is open, my heart is open. We want God. Bring him on in. We'll take him. And you know what David did? After 3 months, David heard, and David saw that God had blessed the household of Obed-Edom, and David said, he's done gone and got my blessings. Let me tell you something. You don't want God? God will say, okay, he'll give somebody else the blessings he couldn't give you. What if Obed had stood at the door and said, I respect you, King. I love you. You're my sovereign. I've heard what God's done down there. We're scared of him. Just pass on by. We don't want God in our place. We don't want God around here. I wonder what would have been the end of the story of Obed-Edom. I don't think you'd have seen him as a doorkeeper in the sanctuary. I don't think you would have seen him leading the choir, doing the cymbals, and playing instruments. I don't think you'd have seen him leading his kids, them 62, them 68. I don't think you'd have seen them grandkids. You ought to see the names of them and what it means. The thing just got better, better, and better. What Obed did, it got better with his kids. It got better with his grandkids. It got better down the road. You say, why are you serving God? I'll tell you why I'm serving God. Because nobody ever loved me like Jesus. Nobody's ever done anything for me like Jesus. I'll tell you another reason I'm serving God. I want him to have some blessings. I want him to have some blessings. And if the Lord tarries and God help the woman that marries them, and if God gives them a wife and we have grandkids, I want God to bless them and great grandkids. And man, I like somebody said, what's your goals in life? You know, my goal in life is very simple. I want to live long enough to become a burden to my kids. And I want to live long enough to aggravate Baptists who've aggravated me all my life if I can fulfill those 2 goals. But I'd love to be long enough so, you know, I asked the kids the other day, I said this and I got shocked the answer. I said, me and Mama's old and we're in a wheelchair somewhere. I said, you got to take care of us. Who are you dreading to take care of? And without thinking, and without them taking 10 minutes to ponder it and make a list of, you know, it was me. I'm the one they're dreading. So I want to live long enough that I can burden them. I want to live long enough I can tell them, that boy of yours is acting just like you acted. I want to live for God and make room for God so that their lives can be blessed, grandkids' lives can be blessed, and after we're dead and gone, the Lord hadn't come, great grandkids' lives is going to be blessed. I want to make room for God so that God will do something in my heart, in my life. And here's the great thing about God. God could just said, Obed-Edom. God could have said to him, thank you for opening your home up to the ark. I'll bless your home. And for 90 days, the glory of God was there. For 90 days, blessings. For 90 days, just supernatural, those common things from God happened on 90 days. God could have said, then the ark left, and God could have said, thank you for that, and that could be done. But that wasn't the way God operated. Because of just 3 months of him opening his home to God, it was a lifetime of blessings. Because of him opening his life, it wasn't God just blessing him. It wasn't God just blessing Mama. It wasn't God just blessing the kids. Man, there was youngins to come down the road that God blessed because of what Obed-Edom did. No, he's not a Ruth. He's not an Elijah. He's not Elisha. He's not an Esther. He's just Obed-Edom, an average guy on the wrong side of the tracks that had a bad past and had a bunch of heathens down the road. But he's a guy who said, Lord, I'll do what I can. Stop by my place. I want you. I desire you.
Amen.
And God showed up at his place. That's what I want to be. I want to be Obed-Edom this morning to say, God, I hope Dewey wants you, but if they don't want you down the road, I'll take you. If them don't want you, I'll take you. And if none of you don't want them, send them my way. I'll take your blessings. I want to be an Obed-Edom and have an open heart to God because of what God is going to do down the road. Every head bowed, right place.
I don't know about you, but I want to be one. How about you today? You feel like you want to be one, might be good to come to the altar and say, God, I don't deserve what you've done. But you have been good to me. Lord, I want to have you first and foremost, preeminent, prominent. I want you to be first in my life. I want to make room for you, God. I want you to bless my home. I want you to bless my kids and grandkids. I want you to bless my heritage. I want you to thank you, God, for, Lord, how you showed up, and Lord, how good you've been to me, how you answered prayer. Lord, you've been good. Heavenly Father, in the name of the Lord Jesus, in this time as we search our hearts, Lord God, help us to be grateful. Help your people to be appreciative. Help us, God, who wants you, Lord, wants your power, wants your presence, desire you, Lord, more than anything else. Obed said, after I felt you and touched you and sensed you, God, I want you more than anything else. God, have your will. God, have your way. In Jesus' name. These are praying. How about you? You got a family, it might be good to say, God, I'm going to open my heart for my family. I'll open my home for my family. You want to see something down the road, it might be good to make a decision today. Say, God, I want you in my home. I'm grateful for the day you knocked on my door. I'm grateful for it saying, I'll come and live with you if you want me to. I said, yes, sir. I want you. I want your touch. I want your blessings. I want to feel you and sense you. I want your glory. Amen. Look up this way. Well, tonight I'll finish it up unless the Lord changes my mind. I got a couple of thoughts, but I'll say something about Esther tonight. Who knows? But I got some more no bit eating never got to, and so we're going to receive the morning tithes and the offerings. Dalton Levi, why don't you come on? And Brother Gene, you go to the back door with this one. We'll do the dual thing, if you don't mind. And we're going to pray over the offering and be able to give unto the Lord as God has blessed us and prospered us and been good to us. I'm thankful. I'm glad to be an Obed-Edom, and I enjoy his blessings. I crave his blessings. I'm addicted to his blessings. Addicted to it. And thankful how good God has been. Heavenly Father, I pray over the offering. Lord, you know every single need that we represent. Lord, me and Dewey was talking just yesterday, I think it was, and looking over how much we owed. And Lord, just in the last few years, how much it's been paid down. And God, that's all you. And I thank you, Lord, for how you provided. And Lord, you did it through people, did it through means, but it's ultimately you, God. And I give you all the credit, all the honor, and every bit of the glory for what you have done. And continue, oh God. We need you, Lord. Absolutely, Lord. I don't want to depend upon myself or depend upon nobody else. I want to depend upon you. My trust, my confidence, my hope, Lord, is entirely in the Lord God of heaven. And so please, Lord, I pray that you would continue to do works in our hearts and lives. And for all the requests, God, that you would grant, Lord, according to your will, and meet the needs, God, and comfort and strengthen and heal and deliver whatever the need might be, God, that your will would be done. And bless the offering now. We'll thank and praise you and give you glory for it. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.